Okay, so continuing on the quantum selves and the possible selves conversation. So we have to, in order to position an argument around having a quantum self or a possible self or even a future self, we have to put ourselves into a non-linear framework. And my framework, as I've mentioned in intro, was through the Ramtha School of Enlightenment, and we were introduced to a specific model which talks about ourselves as a point zero consciousness emanating from the void. And this kind of idea can be seen in many transpersonal orientations. So we are this 0 point energy that splits into two and becomes a dual self. So initially we are this unified 0 point energy field consciousness, and then we contemplate ourselves and who are we, and split into two, and we become this bifurcated or duality consciousness. But we are in truth always in oneness. So that is the true essence of who we are. So we are infinite oneness expressing itself through different facets, different masks, different possibilities of self. But within our own nature, we have this connection to, we are basically emanating out of the void with a 0 point energy field. So that 0 point consciousness, you could call like a God center, a 0 point consciousness, a unified field. And that is outside of time and space. And it comes down through various levels of creation. But before it splits into the physical reality of atomic matter, it is subatomic. We are subatomic. We have levels of ourselves that are pre-physical. And this is like an aspect of ourselves that has been forgotten, that we have forgotten that we are not physical, that we are not just our bodies, that we are not our personality, we are not things. So the mystical journey is really to understand that we are this quantum field expressing itself in different potentials. It's like the dance of the void into infinite shores. So there's many different traditions that express this idea, but it's very important that we embrace science that has also given us a lot of language for this idea. So when quantum physics, there was this breakthrough in quantum physics, what they found is that when they did the double slit experiment, the particles that were being shot through the two slits collapsed into the slot where the observer was. And that observer seemed to be affecting the nature of reality. So that's really important for us to remember, that we are actually affecting the nature of reality as we observe a possible outcome, that is what we are able to do. So what does this mean for us in terms of our spiritual development? It really means that we have to help ourselves to observe different outcomes, because as we observe different outcomes, so reality forms to match or to fulfill the observation of the observer. So we each have an observer within us. It's our, you could say, God self. It's like this 0-point energy field that's looking, always looking, observing from a point of stillness, everything that we're showing it in our mind. So anyway, let me just go back to recap the 4 principles of quantum physics that were discovered, because it changed the nature of reality and the way that we knew things. Things weren't so much linear and externally bound anymore. So there are 4 aspects of quantum physics, 4 principles, and I know that this is kind of a very crude version of it, and you can go and research some of the people like William Brown, who is working with Nassim Haramein, who works on the science of consciousness, and that might be helpful. There are other people as well that are progressive, but you have to watch out for people being very reductive in terms of trying to reduce consciousness back down to an objective form. So what did they discover in quantum physics? That light is both a wave and a particle. That we live in this entangled universe. That as particles meet each other, they imprint each other, and when they leave each other, they carry the information of that meeting with each other and influence each other wherever they are in the universe. Entanglement. There's also non-locality. So what is non-locality? Non-locality means that even though we are seemingly physically here in this location, we are influencing or able to access information at a distance that is non-local to us. That is non-locality. So just trying to think of the other one. So entanglement, non-locality, dual nature of light, and the observer effect, which I've mentioned, which was discovered when the scientists saw this experiment. Wherever they looked for the outcome of the particle collapsing, a wave collapsing into a particle, is where it would show up. And they realized that the universe is participating with their observation. So it's no different for us as an individual as opposed to a scientist. We are living in a participatory universe. We are, in a way, a god to our own creation, you could say. And how is it that reality is forming around us? How is it that we have this particular nature of our reality, and how can we come undone from that? How can we reorganize ourselves, or are we just victims of that particular reality? And of course, we've seen through quantum physics and the way that we can influence the outcome of our reality, that we are not fixed in an old static form with an external observer that is not us. That would be an old model of reality. In order to move to this higher frequency, 5th dimensional, 4th density reality, we have to understand and bring ourselves into the freedom of being able to be sovereign, completely sovereign, and being the creator of our own reality. As Jesus said in the Bible, you are gods. And that I believe to be true. I think we are gods. I think we are creating our own reality. I think we have forgotten how to do that, and we are slowly starting to practice that. So that is one of the basis, the theoretical basis of this idea of a possible self or future self. Because if you are not fixed, and it is only your perceptions or your thoughts or the way that you are measuring yourself that is bringing reality into this collapsed, hardened state, then all you have to do is re-observe yourself. You have to somehow externalize what it is that you're thinking. You have to look carefully at the situation or at the way that you are constructing yourself and your reality. You have to make a change to that, and then you have to re-internalize it. So when we're positioning this idea of a possible self or a future self, we have to become free of the old linear paradigm of an externally created reality. The locus of self is no longer coming from the outside, but as we start to master ourselves, the locus of control must come from the inside, and we must practice how to do that. Another important discovery was around genetics, that with Bruce Lipton's research, he saw that the genes are not the blueprint of our physical makeup. That's the one thing. And the other thing that he found in his research around biology and quantum biology and genes is that perception creates the expression of the genes. So as we manage our perception of the environment, as we learn to master our perception of the environment, so we can shift the signal that's coming into our genes. So we have to learn to choose the frequency that is playing inside of our minds, the thoughts that are passing through, the perceptions that we are having. We have to learn to choose those so that they match the reality that we are wanting to have. So this is all part of this future self idea or possible self idea. And the science since quantum physics and all of the parallel realities and multiple timelines and all those kinds of things, there's a lot of science to back that up. So Bohm also did some great research around implicate and explicate orders. Implicate being this invisible quantum reality that forms or shapes much in the way that, say, a signal would to a cell phone or Wi-Fi would to a computer. It informs, or it brings energy and life into the computer. And then we have to learn how to program our own brain, our own computer brain, so that we're running the programs that are more in alignment with where we are going in the future. So where are we going in the future? We're freeing ourselves up completely so that we can choose which aspect of ourselves we want to be expressing and not be stuck in these very, very limited old selves. So I think I'm going to just leave this first piece of the discussion around quantum self and possible selves. And I will fill in the next aspect of that in the next discussion.